Hi, everyone. We're back for part two of our discussion with Muhammad Hijab's former wife, Aisha, and we've got Thaddeus here. How you doing, Thaddeus?
Hello, happy to be here.
We've got Hoda off screen. How's it going, Hoda?
I'm doing well, thanks.
And of course, we have Aisha. Aisha, you hear us?
Oh, hi there.
Hi, hi, hi. How's it going? All right.
Thank
So,
you for having me.
oh yeah,
Thank you
yeah.
for having me over again.
Oh yeah. Always glad to have you here and help you in any way we can. Thaddeus.
hmm
Why don't you bring everyone up to date? I guess kind of the condensed, shortened version of what's been going on so that we can then jump into the discussion from there.
hmm Yeah, so Mohammed Hijab had a long-term relationship, but not a romantic relationship, just a long-term relationship of knowing a woman, Aisha, who is with us today. After years of conditioning her, grooming her, you could say, he eventually proposed to marry her. He promised this would be a normal Islamic marriage, that he would provide full rights, the only condition being that she would not tell his first wife, because his first wife would not be okay with the arrangement. But he would provide financial support, he'd be part of her life, be a father for her child, and so on and so forth, have additional children with her. As soon as the marriage took place, or the nikah, he immediately changed the terms. He said this is going to be a sex only marriage. We're just going to meet at hotels. And by the way, I will, don't worry, I will try not to get you pregnant. Aisha said, no, this isn't what I signed up for. This is not what you promised. You were lying to me. If you're not going to give me what you promised, then give me a divorce. So that's what Hijab did. He gave her a divorce. After that, he continued to abuse her over text messages. He was extremely angry. He put all this effort in, I guess, to condition a woman to be his sex only so called wife. Really, sexual abuse here really has nothing to do with the marriage, really has nothing to do with being a wife. Um, he was very upset about that, very angry, continued to send her all kinds of threatening text messages and angry messages. And as a result, she said, this isn't right. So, this is something very wrong has happened here. Let me go and get some scholars' opinions, ask some Muslims for help. She went to a bunch of different Muslims. Some said, yes, what Hijab did was wrong, but I don't want to get involved. Leave me out of this. I don't want to be associated with this. Others just said that, yeah, Hijab, maybe it wasn't like the best thing in the world, but it's also okay Islamically. So, in the face of all that, she did eventually find one individual who's willing to help her, Sheikh Mohammed Tarane. Tarane negotiated a settlement in which Hijab would apologize and Aisha would have the opportunity to make a public statement, go on Ali Dawa's YouTube channel, and kind of reveal this is happening without saying anything about it being Muhammad Hijab. Just say, I was tricked by this guy, and this is what happened. Other sisters, be aware that there's people out there that are trying to do this thing. So be vigilant. Be aware of this as a possibility, and don't allow yourself to be tricked. That was recorded. When Muhammad Hijab saw the program, he's like, never mind. People might figure out this is me. We're not going to we're not going to release this. Delete this, Ali Dawa. Ali Dawa, of course, complied and deleted it. Aisha eventually got in touch with a Muslim named Salman, who runs a channel called Behind Veils. After a thorough investigation lasting 6 months, Salman also tried to negotiate a settlement behind closed doors, tried to get Hijab to cooperate, and instead Hijab just lied, said he never knew her. When he was confronted on that, changed his story. Yeah, I knew her, but she was a crazy stalker. She's making the whole thing up. Salman said, that's nonsense. We have tons of evidence. So if you're not going to cooperate, if you're not going to do this Islamically, we're going to have to go public. And that's what ended happening. They dropped that video. Muhammad Hijab responded on an anonymous channel using an AI narrator. Ali Dawa jumped in. Ali Dawa responded. Salman continued to drop more and more and more and more evidence, case built. Then at near the end, it was revealed that Mohammed Hijab was blackmailing Sheikh Tarani to keep him silent, keep him from revealing anything. Then we had part one of this interview, and since then, new news has dropped. Salman apparently got access to a group chat in which Mohammed Hijab and numerous other da'is are members, and they were conspiring behind closed doors to conceal everything. And that takes us up to where we are today.
All right, so that brings everyone up to date. We've got a link to the Behind Veils video where Thaddeus just mentioned in the description box. Definitely want to watch that. Lots of information in there. I just wanted to highlight two things. One where Hijab brings me up, and then we'd like Sister Aisha's reaction to something about her in there, which is possibly the most disturbing thing to emerge from that those text messages. But one of the things we have here, and so we're looking at these are screenshots from Salman's presentation on these text messages. So he's added some of his own notes over on the side. We're not talking about those. We're talking about the texts that are up on the screen. But this was a WhatsApp group with, I think, 75 Muslim da'is who were all working together with Mohammed Hijab as part of a group that was meant to discredit Sister Aisha and to rescue Mohammed Hijab from criticism. So we have here Ali Dawa, and we're going to look at this one, and we've got Mohammed Hijab's response. We're going to take a look at that as far as the most disturbing ones. But here, this isn't really disturbing. This one's kind of funny. But Mohammed Hijab says to the group, "Salam, guys. I heard that David Wood knew that something would happen. That there would be some kind of scandal, and that there is a video that proves it. Does anyone have that video? We need it." So this is the hilarious thing, that I have a video that proves it. So Hijab here says, because me and AP were talking about this in live streams, but Hijab, way back in January, started talking about Elon Musk. He posted a video and he was posting tweets saying that someone with Elon Musk had contacted him and sent him a warning that if he doesn't stop his powerful criticisms of Elon Musk and doing his dawah in that regard and whatever, that Elon Musk was going to use his untold billions of dollars to frame Mohammed Hijab for a scandal. And that story was so beyond ridiculous that it was obvious what was going on. This is a move that Hijab stole from Andrew Tate. When Andrew Tate found out that he was about to be arrested, he put out a message to his followers about how people were going to frame him for crimes, and this was all to discredit him for over his powerful, inspiring message to young men. So anyway, Hijab copied that. Obviously, if he's sitting here saying Elon Musk is about to frame me for a scandal, there's a scandal that's about to come out, and he wants to throw people off the trail. So that was the entire basis for me realizing a scandal was about to come out. And somehow Hijab thinks that there's a video, that I had some sort of proof or evidence. No, the video in question, the relevant video that proves that the scandal was about to come out, was Mohammed Hijab's video saying that Elon Musk was about to frame him. So anyway, just wanted to point that out, that it's kind of weird that this guy lets information out, lets the cat out of the bag himself, exposes himself, and then is wondering where the evidence is that's exposing him. Dude, it's you. You expose yourself. You expose yourself, man. All right, so I want to get Sister Aisha's reaction to these messages here, and we want to go, I guess I'll start I'll start at the top. So someone says she's straight up mental, referring to Sister Aisha. Says she did admit to having mental issues online and also in her email to us. Ali Dawa says, we don't want to push her to suicide. And then he corrects himself. So that's from Ali Dawa. And we have Muhammad Hijab's response. To be honest, Aki, if she's an apostate and an enemy of Islam, we shouldn't care. So this is Muhammad Hijab saying they shouldn't care. This group of 75 Muslim men in Dawah, if Aisha is an enemy of Islam, and you're wondering why is she an enemy of Islam? Because she's questioning Muhammad Hijab and calling his character into question. And why would she be an apostate? Because she expressed some doubts, which in another context, Ali Dawa thought was totally fine to express doubts if you're Sneeko, but if you're Aisha, that means, I guess, you're an apostate. But Hijab thinks, okay, if we can put her in the apostate category, in the enemy of Islam category, we shouldn't care if we push her to end her own life. So notice, this is a question about how their actions were going to affect her. And Hijab's response is, if she's an enemy of Islam, we shouldn't care. We shouldn't care if she ends up ending her own life. So, Sister Aisha, we'd like to get your thoughts on all of this, because this is, again, probably the most disturbing part about the texts that were leaked.
These texts made me feel sick. Yeah, so I felt sick and I had fever and I couldn't believe what I was reading. Brother Salman tends to work on most of his videos, majority of the parts of his videos, the editing and the information for like for safety reasons, to be really honest. Like he tries his best to keep hold of most disturbing information away from me, to not hurt me emotionally. And I saw that information when it was released. And these people, I spent my own money just this last Ramadan. I checked out their projects. I was paying for their project. I was trying to learn and deal with my questions from their own work. And throughout all these years, these people are my own family. And I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. As I said before, I'm still working on these things. So I am not here to say that I have denounced Islam or I am against them or against Islam. But what I can see clearly here in front of me is extremely disturbing. These are actions of devils. This is the description of devils. These are my own family. Where is the investigation? Where is the digging of the information? Where is فَتَثَبَّتُوا that we have in the Quran? Whatever he says, they are believing it. They are taking it at face value. They are taking it for his words. There is no investigation, absolutely nothing. There are diagnoses here that are being made based on one single text or comment or whatever. I do not think that any of them do actually believe anything about the mental health issues. I think all these things are being just used to cover up on Muhammad Hijab's actions. This was extremely disturbing. It made me feel extremely sick, and I just simply can't believe what I'm reading.
Houda, what are your thoughts on this?
To be honest, when I first saw this video, I was horrified. I was somebody who went through my own trauma in the Muslim community that still has an impact on me today. And I just couldn't help but think, these are the same guys who are getting paid thousands upon thousands of dollars to speak. They set up booths and they preach Islam, and they are trying to invite people to Islam, women especially. And I can't help but think, these same women that they will preach Islam to and invite to Islam, their lives don't matter to them in the context of they're going to use you. If they want to marry you and use you and throw you away, and you get pushed to deep depression, suicide, anything, they don't care if you die. The lives of women do not matter to these guys.
Yeah, this is some seriously sick stuff. And keep in mind, guys, this is Muhammad Hijab talking about his ex-wife who tried everything she possibly could to deal with this behind the scenes, not to expose him even, just to get other Muslim women to realize that this is something that's happening. And because she tried to let people know, let Muslim women know, not to let men take advantage of them in this way, that was enough for all of this, attempt to destroy her credibility. And Hijab knows that she's vulnerable in all this. And so the concern arises, what if we push her so hard, destroy her life so much that we actually push her to end her own life? Hijab's response is, we shouldn't care. We shouldn't care. She's an apostate and an enemy of Islam. Again, talking about his ex-wife. So yeah, this is bad stuff. But again, ladies and gentlemen, you can get all of that. You can get all of that and a lot more over on the Behind the Veils channel, and we've got the link to the most recent video in the description box. Really messed up stuff. Aisha, anything else you'd like to share before we get into some other issues? It's basically for the new video, for the new Behind Veils video. Everyone's going to have to go ahead and watch that for themselves. We wanted to draw attention to some of the issues with the Dawa community and how hypocritical these guys are, and how this is still a problem. People who go against the grain and expose something in the community can be attacked. So we want to sort of revisit the issue of Imam Nick. But anything else you wanted to cover from the information that was released there?
This is something I was reconsidering. I was hesitant in sharing these details because these are very personal issues, very sensitive issues, and I hope that people can manage and accommodate my English, because this is not my first language. So the situation here is, all these things and all these details that have happened had actually really pushed me to the edge. And when I look at these comments and I look at what I've been going through in the past 2 years mentally, the implications of all his actions, the smear campaign that happened and started actually very early on, since I started reaching out to people even before I came out public. The stories that he spread amongst those who knew about the marriage, the way he acted, the psychopathic treatment, and all the interactions and all the lies, the deception, and him basically turning into a monster, something I've never seen of him, in towards the Muslims, and the way he promoted himself as like, oh, all those actions I do even with the non-Muslims is just for the show, is just like to create the views and so on, and I'm actually really nice. And he's been promoting how he reached out to even AP and in a soft way, and he was like, let's have a good conversation. And I think even AP has spoken about this before. But then when I saw how like all these things were not real, they were not true, based on my own experience, the way he was trying absolutely anything and everything just to cover up on his face, rather than really providing a real apology and rectifying his actions, because even the apology that he provided was not a real one. The apology that Sheikh Muhammad Tarawna speaks about, it was not a real apology. That apology was followed with the WhatsApp text conversations that were shared. And that conversation on WhatsApp just was one. There were a few other conversations similar to that. All these things and the implications of them on my life and my child as well pushed me a few times to attempt to unalive myself. So When I read that message that was posted a couple of days ago, I was horrified. This person doesn't even care about absolutely nobody. It's not just a person who was a wife to him. I wanted to raise awareness, and this is why I decided to accept your offer to come on your channel. This was my aim from the get go. I wanted to create a change because the actions he was spreading amongst men are horrible and they destroy other people's lives.
Yes, they do. And so you were right. As far as Hijab, not just with you, but he really doesn't seem to care about anyone but himself. I mean, just think, he could have dealt with this. He could have dealt with this a long time ago and quietly, and just couldn't bear the thought of not getting his way and not being in complete control. And he's willing to just destroy everything around him, all for himself. So, yeah, that's a serious issue. But the other issue, as far as something that does absolutely need to be dealt with, is the fact that so many people were on board with this, and all he has to do is say, "Hey, here's the situation. Let's all work together. Let's all work together in destroying this woman and destroying her life," and so on. And then again, when it gets brought up, hey, what if we push her too hard and she ends her own life? He says, we shouldn't care. And keep in mind, he's the sort of leader of these guys. He's the leader. And you would have Muslims in that group who are thinking, wow, that would be really bad to push a woman to end her own life. That would be really bad. And he's saying, no, from an Islamic perspective, we shouldn't care. So this man has influence over other people, and he's not using his influence for good. He's using his influence for evil. And I can guarantee if he sat down with a psychiatrist who analyzed him, he would be very quickly diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, because he's a total narcissist. He's at the center of the universe. Everything revolves around him. Okay, so again, everyone, the link to that video is in the description box. The Behind Veils video, really, really, really messed up, disturbing stuff, but it takes you through a lot of those text messages. Thaddeus, we wanted to. You sent me some video clips that we wanted to go through, sort of exposing the hypocrisy of these guys, but to sort of tie things back in. Actually, Houda, you know about the Imam Nick thing, right?
I do. I have a lot of familiarity with the Imam Nick scenario.
Yeah, that's kind of what we want to cover. There's just so much hypocrisy involved in all of this. And then, so that's a problem, the hypocrisy, as we're about to see. But also this issue of anyone who kind of goes against the grain and exposes what's going on behind the scenes is a target for just their lives being ruined. So what's going on with, we covered a bit of we covered the story of Imam Nick last time, but we just wanted to recap with a clip or two. What's the story here?
So with Imam Nick, after calling out the child abuse at the Irving Masjid, he consulted many imams like Yasser Qadi, Omar Suleiman, Yasser Birajah, Suhaib Webb, and silence. Nobody wanted to touch this situation with a 10-foot pole. Nobody wanted to listen to him. Nobody wanted to help. They wanted to stay out of it. There's this whole culture of protecting each other, protecting these types of people, and just staying silent about it. And what happened to Imam Nick for speaking out about it and trying to seek help from other imams in his community, he was shunned. And he's struggled for the past 6-7 years now to get his life together again and to rebuild from what happened. He's had trouble finding employment. He's struggled financially. He has a wife and children, and he's not having a good time being shunned from the community. This is what happens if you go against the Dawa mafia, the greater, mafia, this group of people.
And this is this ties into the story with Sister Aisha in the sense that Imam Nick saw something that was definitely wrong and knew he had to draw attention to it. It's not something you can sweep under the rug. And somehow, in the minds of people, that makes him the bad guy. And again, it's similar with Sister Aisha because she saw a problem, namely that this wasn't just something that was going to happen to her. This is something that's happening to other women. So she realizes she can't just keep this quiet. And that makes her the bad guy to the point where it makes her an apostate in their minds. So this is, let's go ahead and watch. Let's go ahead and watch a clip from Imam Nick explaining things a bit.
If doing the right thing puts me in line with the wrong people that you don't like, I don't care. If the only help I have to save a drowning boy is somebody who you find appalling, and I'm sure you could think of some names, I'm not going to not act because I'm afraid of how you will think it will reflect on me because of who you think I associate with. Point number 7, that I made Muslims look bad. Well, if your Islam is grabbing children's crotches and sucking on their face or covering up for those who do.
Anyone who didn't see story last time, Houda shared it a bit there, but we saw video clips last time where he was describing the situation and someone was abusing a child. Again, we've been through this, but the issue here is since he brings this up and exposes it to non-Muslims, therefore it's like he's conspiring with non-Muslims to attack Islam or something, and therefore that makes him someone who's conspiring with the enemy somehow against Islam. Again, same thing they did with Sister Aisha, that because she's sharing this information and even sharing it with people who are going to use it, therefore she's conspiring and collaborating with the enemies of Islam and needs to be targeted, just like Imam Nick here.
I didn't make you look bad. I merely put a mirror in front of you. And the mirror doesn't make you look bad. It just shows you who you are. And I have nothing to do with whatever version of Islam that is. You want to make Muslims look good? You should have done the right thing. You should have said something. You should have done something. My Islam doesn't care how you think or how anybody else thinks it looks. You had the opportunity to do the right thing. One of my best friends from college, who's a Roman Catholic and knows a thing or two about this sort of stuff, said to me, man, you served up your community a grand slam. And they struck out.
Wow. I have to say that's one of the good things that came out of this entire situation is that we've come across some Muslims that we really like, Thaddeus. We really like Sister Aisha. We really like the work that Salman has done, doing awesome stuff. And I have to say, I wasn't familiar with Imam Nick before, but I really like that guy.
You know, you and I, we strongly oppose Islam, but through this, we've learned that there are good Muslims that we can agree with. And Aisha's saying that she strongly opposes what we do, but she's learned through this that there are good people on the Christian side or on the atheist side that are willing to stand up for what is right.
And I can
Absolutely. David shared. Oh, sorry. I wanted to say that you shared your story of your mom, which is a very personal thing, but you decided that you're going to share that in one of the comments. And I think if we can get together on what is good, and I've said this many times, I would appreciate that we all get to share our opinion in a way that would keep everyone, safe, basically, and away from blasphemy and mockery. But obviously, this is my own opinion.
To be honest, like from my end, Sister Aisha, I knew of Imam Nick many years ago when I converted. Like I was looking for converts to relate to online and I found him and I liked his content and he was a convert like me. He's a wholesome family man. Like I always, and I still feel like, and I know that Imam Nick is a good human being, especially after what he did. He sacrificed himself for the greater good of his community, right? So again, I've mentioned this before when it comes to somebody in humanity being wronged, I'm going to side with the person in humanity being wronged. It doesn't matter what background you come from. And even with Imam Nick, when we did a video about him recently, he had a GoFundMe. There was one that Salman set up for him. And then there was another one. I was so surprised. Imam Nick was just in a serious car accident. And I just have such a heart for Imam Nick that I shared his GoFundMe and I helped raise funds for him to help rebuild his life. So for me, it doesn't necessarily matter, Muslim, non-Muslim, Christian. It doesn't matter. If you're a good person and you take on a sacrifice like this for your community, I'm going to want to stand up for you.
This is what created a crisis of faith for me. Because any human being with the least sound heart would take action. The least of actions. The silence is deafening and it's terrifying. It's traumatizing for me. No one could possibly understand the degree of trauma this silence is creating, spiritually and otherwise. Yeah, and I think you're right. And I am appalled at the silence from the Muslim side. Brother Salman has done like great work, amazing. That work is unprecedented. And he did put his life at risk, along with all the team that worked with him. And I appreciate everybody who would stand up for what is good and what is true. That is just really amazing work. That's all I could say.
Yeah, that is. It is interesting. We all, everyone here right now shares that in common, that we're willing to stand up for what we think is right, and we'll stand our ground even when we're being attacked and so on. And Imam Nick is in that category. Salman is in that category. So yeah, on the issue, this is something that came up in a recent live stream where I mentioned that when we're listening to the Dawah guys, I have an inclination to attack Islam because they're behaving terribly and very evil behavior. And my inclination is to go after the religion you're telling me about when you're being especially evil and so on. But then when talking or hearing from Sister Aisha or Salman, just when we're watching clips, I have the opposite inclination. Like, hey, you're doing good things here. I don't want to attack your prophet or anything right now while you're doing good things. So it's just interesting because I started dealing with Islam way back in the day just because my best friend was a Muslim. So my best friend in college was a Muslim, and we were having discussions about Islam. And so everything, all these discussions about Islam are in the context of simultaneously being best friends with a Muslim. So there's no hatred for him. He's my best friend. Later on, eventually, after years later, he becomes a Christian, and then it took him about a month before he got his first death threat, and it was attached to his car. So someone who knew where he was. But then, just the insults and the abuse that is piled on him, it made me want to blast away at Islam more, because now it's not my best friend who's the Muslim. It's the Muslims we're all these people who are just heaping insults and abuse and threatening my best friend, threatening his life. And so natural inclination to go into attack mode. So just wanted to point that out there for everyone who, raises up the Dawah guys and puts them on these pedestals. When they behave like Muhammad Hijab does, that makes us more inclined to attack your religion. When you're behaving well and standing up for what's right, like Imam Nick or Salman or Aisha, that makes us, even if we still want to criticize Islam and we still want to bring up points about why we disagree with it or why we think it's false and so on, it's not the same inclination to attack it in the same way that we sometimes do. So the point here is, if you really want to protect Islam from criticism, everyone out there, not necessarily from criticism, because I said we'd still do that, but from mockery or insults, probably don't prop up these guys that bring that that out of people with their behavior. So anyway, but here we're all getting along because we're on the same page about how women should not be treated. All right, Thaddeus, we wanted to jump into some clips about, because we're pointing out that this is a problem in the Dawa community, especially when it's one of their own. But we've got a couple of clips from EF Dawa here. And
Yeah,
oh, go ahead.
a Christian calls into their show shortly after the story breaks and kind of asks them about it. And they're like, oh, well, we don't know anything. We don't want to talk about someone's private life or whatever. And then he kind of like pushes the issue and says, well, what would you need for this to be a problem? And then they give a standard. And then lo and behold, that standard is quickly met in, things that develop after that show. And then they're asked a little while later what the standard is, and it completely has changed.
All right, let's check out the first clip you referenced there.
Look, I'm not going to defend Muhammad Hijab if he's done something wrong. I will say straight to him on his face that Hijab, this is wrong. That's how Muslims are. The Quran tells us clearly, stand up for justice, even against yourselves, against your parents, against your family, against your kin, whether one is rich or poor. We're not here to cover anything up.
So you're saying this was in the context of him being asked about this situation. They don't know anything about it, but they're saying, yeah, if he did do something wrong, we would call even him out. Because that's how we are. We will stand up. Wait, hang on. This is seriously these guys saying, we're going to stand up for what's right. And even if it's Muhammad Hijab, that's the kind of community we are. We're the community that would stand up against him and challenge him and say, you're wrong here. You need to repent and atone for what you've done.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So the guy at the bottom of the screen is the one who asked the question. He basically was like, Muhammad Hijab has been accused of, X, Y, and Z. What do you think about that? And they're like, we don't know. We don't have any information about this. And then the guy's like, well, what if it's true, right? What if it's true? And then they're responding in this way.
And you sent me two more clips where something seems to have changed their mind at some point, but let's see.
We're not here to spread rumors. If something is established, you can go and speak directly to Muhammad Hijab on one of his streams when he's on his streams, and you can ask him directly. We're not going to be doing that cheap, get your popcorn ready. Let's start discussing about people's lives, and let's start judging other. Who has the right to judge anyone anyway, Frank? Anyway, come in there, Frank, and before we get the next guest on.
Wait, one second. So this clip continues, but a little confused here. So this is actually in the same discussion. At first they say, yes, we would call him out, even if it's Muhammad Hijab. And then they instantly start saying, but if it's private stuff and so on, we don't want to become gossip channels or something like that. Or we don't want to focus on the drama.
I put in two clips just to be clear that, it wasn't continuous. There was like some interaction in between. And basically the guy just kept pushing him, right? After they said they'd call him out, and he's like, well, there's all this evidence. It's already out there. And he's like, well, we don't want to get into all that. We don't want to get into gossip if that's not what this show's about.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So the first was, we don't know. We need to see evidence. Then he's like, okay, well, the evidence is out there. Salman just posted it. It's on Behind Veils. You can go watch it. And then like, what? No. You can go ask Hijab. You can go ask Hijab what his response is to the evidence.
Very strange, but let's let them continue here.
I have a comment about this video.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this Christian person, what he was bringing up was way much more of value than what they made it seem like, because his question was evolving around what Muhammad Hijab was preaching from an Islamic perspective, and he was sharing that on the Bitter Truth. And hijab was coming across like whatever kind of marriage with the intention of divorce, which he called previously in 2019 sexual exploitation of women. If it's done right? It doesn't matter how long it takes. It doesn't matter whether or not a man has the reason to divorce. He doesn't even have to bring forward any kind of justification. He can do it straight away. He can divorce straight away. He can do whatever he feels like doing. He shouldn't be questioned at all. And it's Islamically okay. This is his argument. This is Muhammad Hijab's argument. You can deceive a woman regardless of her situation, whether she's young, she's old, she's vulnerable, she's not vulnerable. For me, it's wrong. For him, no, it's Islamically valid. And this is the whole issue. This is the whole problem that we are fighting here. And this is what this Christian was bringing up. He said to them that what Muhammad Hijab did and what he's preaching is, he claims, is Islamically valid. And I'm sure we're going to be able to hear that from him in a minute right now.
All right, let's see.
A couple of things. You asked about Christians and slander. So Jesus set out what you do when a brother sins, that you go and speak to him yourself, and then you if he won't listen to you, then you take 2 others with you as witnesses, and if he still won't listen, then you take it to the church. So you don't spread rumors.
So he's comparing what they're saying with what Jesus taught, and then we've got the next EF Dawa clip here.
Are you
Hold
slandering
on.
Jimmy Swaggart?
No, hold on a second,
Why
Frank.
are you bringing up an internet rumor?
Hold on a second.
How do you know Jimmy Swaggart did that?
Because
Why
he
are you blackening his name?
Because he admitted it. He cried on screen and
Okay,
asked for forgiveness.
so has Muhammad Hijab, I think he's admitted this marriage.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. That's the point.
Oh, so I get it. I get it. So the idea was that let me see if I understand the progression here. So someone asked them about their reaction to the Muhammad Hijab scandal, which was breaking news then. Their response was, of course we'd call that out. If Muhammad Hijab is doing whatever he's being accused of doing and lying and this and that, then of course we would call him out. And then sounds like the guy kept pressing and saying, but it sounds like he did do that stuff. So you guys gonna call him out? And then it's, no, we don't want to deal with drama. We don't want to talk about people's lives and so on. As they're sort of realizing, oh, he actually did this, and we've just agreed that we would call him out for it. We need to change this very quickly. And then as this guy, looks like his name goes by English Fellow, but if English Fellow starts comparing what they're saying with what Jesus said, and then at some point they say, but what about Jimmy Swaggart? Look, you've got that scandal. And he said, wait a minute, why are you bringing that up? Why you bring it? Because they just laid it down. We don't talk about, scandals and stuff like that. We're not interested in the scandals. But then they bring up Jimmy Swaggart, and he calls them out for that.
So this is he calls back a different day. So that you're now in where he calls back the second day. So the first time they're like, we don't spread rumors as Muslims, and basically his point was that he's not spreading a rumor, right? This has gone way beyond spreading a rumor stage. There's evidence, there's multiple witnesses. It was attempted to be resolved in private. Now it's been brought public. So you see, I by Christian standards, I'm not spreading rumors, and presumably by your standards as well, right? I'm not really spreading rumors. And then the conversation basically ends after that, or they force them to talk about whatever else they want to talk about. But as far as the hijab part goes, basically ends after that clip. So then, he calls back like a week later or a few days later. I don't remember the exact timeline, but he calls back and he's like, he calls back and they're like, oh, you better not be coming here to talk about hijab again. That's not what this show's all about or whatever. And then he's like, well, the more evidence has come out. And he's done this, and then they immediately go, well, Jimmy Swaggart, blah 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 blah, and he's like, wait a minute, you're just spreading rumors, because that was their standard, right? If you're talking about someone you don't personally know, it's spreading rumors. Obviously, English fellow doesn't think they're actually spreading rumors, right? It's established fact that Jimmy Swaggart got himself into trouble with a prostitute, and they're like, oh, well, the difference is he admitted it. And then English fellow goes, well, Hijab did admit it. He didn't come out in a video and say it, but there's texts where he admits it, right? We now know from what's been revealed that he had admitted it basically in the group chat of the 75 da'is. So yeah, he admitted it, and now they're like, no, we need to hear it in his words or it doesn't count. So that's the standard now.
This is also seriously disturbing. I mean, so they're saying if you get exposed for something and you acknowledge it and you admit what you've done, then they can attack you. But if you just lie about it, then you can't be attacked.
That seems to be the standard, yes.
Regardless of the amount of evidence that's going to be presented about it. And this is what disturbed me again, faith-wise, because I am in the field of da'wah. All my life, I go around. Empirical evidence is not the only type of evidence that you go by. Empirical evidence is not the only type of evidence you go by. But here, it's like, regardless of the amount of evidence you gather, the WhatsApp conversation was cross-checked by Sheikh Muhammad Tarawna, and it's Muhammad Hijab, that conversation was confirmed, that it's Muhammad Hijab who sent it to me, and he told him, that I shared all that conversation with Sheikh Muhammad Tarawna at the early stages. Everything was confirmed. We've got all these types of evidence, and we are being told it's not enough. And I am like, okay, so what is enough? His own words on the bitter truth, on podcasts, all of those things are not enough. We're not talking here about only the marriage and divorce. We're talking about the details of what has been preached, the details and the horrifying attitude of it's okay, just use and abuse and then throw women later on. You don't need to answer any questions about that. It was the psychopathic treatment that happened to me in person. It was claiming that Allah is okay with all of these things, but no one stood up against him, you know. So him coming out to say, yes, this is what I have done, is not the only type of evidence that is required to establish these facts. No, we have actually provided way much more than enough evidence.
You know what I think is part of the problem here too, especially in this video? I think like in Islam, there's like the culture of no backbiting. And I think what a lot of Muslims do is even when they know somebody is wrong and they know, there's strong evidence that something happened, they use the whole no backbiting rule as a way to kind of like evade, like approaching somebody or forcing people to face accountability. They kind of hide behind this whole, well, I'm not going to backbite. We don't know. We don't have evidence, even though they do. Any like reasonable person can deduce like what happened here.
Yeah, and again, for me, the issue is, I mean, as far as what's coming out right here, is that we tend to think that if you've done something wrong, it's better to be honest about it and to confess what you've done, to admit where you're wrong, and to try to avoid that in the future, right? That's part of the process for becoming a better person. Hey, I was wrong. Let me change. I apologize to everyone. And it sounds like they're saying, hey, if you actually end up confessing, like Jimmy Swaggart did, then we can, it's okay to go after you. And if you're Muhammad Hijab and you just double down and keep lying and destroying everyone around you to cover up your lie, then we will never criticize that. It's like, what? No, what's wrong with you? Anyway, it's just a weird situation. Okay, so wanted to get into a detailed post from Muhammad Hijab, but as far, it is really interesting. You take Ali Dawah, and he says, yes, Muslim women, if someone's doing this sort of thing, then you should expose him. And then he finds out it's Muhammad Hijab, changes his story. We see the same thing from these guys. Yes, we would even call out Muhammad Hijab. Oh, he's actually doing this stuff. Oh, no, we're definitely not going to call him out because, he would just have to admit it himself, which he's not going to do. And so everyone's changing their story here. But Sister Aisha, why don't you go ahead and share any thoughts you have on Muhammad Hijab changing his story about what he wanted with the marriage and so on.
Yes. So this whole situation is a wave of an ideology that Muhammad Hijab did go ahead and rooted it in Islam. And that's what has created the greatest problem. Although the initial problem is a big problem, which is the exploitation of women, now it has become a greater problem, which is claiming that Allah is okay with it, right? So we've got two tiers, two levels of great issues here. And so the whole idea is you can go ahead, I'm talking in general, is you can go ahead and lie to these women, tell her, I divorced my wife, I hate my wife, I'm going to divorce my wife. Tell her, I'm not married, even if you are. Tell her it's a love connection, it's mutual. I liked you all this time. Tell her we've got things in common. Just do anything. Just play her up as a player, the street player, not like a religious, grounded man who has daughters. Not like someone who's posing like righteous and religious. Go play up women, you guys, just to avoid pornography and adultery. It's okay. And this is going to replace adultery and pornography because it's going to be temporary. It's meant to be temporary. It's meant to be played up. It's meant to be orchestrated. And we are going to be here to have your backs. We're going to help you. We're going to teach you ways. We're going to give you the tips and tricks. And go ahead and do this as many times as you can. There is absolutely nothing wrong with it. And he's been preaching this in worldwide, basically. He's got millions of followers. Everyone is listening to him. And he's going ahead and saying this is an Islamic teaching and it's okay. This is called a marriage with the intention of divorce. And it is not okay. It's destroying women's lives. Their kids, if they are single mothers, are looking at their moms being used and abused and broken, and all the implications and the consequences of this abuse. Now he's using it against this victim. Like for example, in my case, I was talking in general. That I'm going to go back to speak about my case. In my case, all the implications of this atrocity is being used against me. Anything, any movement, any moan, any scream, any action, any comment, any expression is going to be used against me. That was the result of what I have actually gone through. This is crazy. This is disgusting. So this is the whole idea, basically. It's temporary use and abuse through deception. It's sexual exploitation through fraud. But we are going to give it a few Islamic terms, and we are going to have the audacity to claim that it's Islamically okay. And if she opposes us, and she's trying to hold into her faith that she's been fighting for all her life, giving da'wah left, right, and center, and giving even my own money to support their projects, now I'm being accused of being an enemy of Islam. God knows what kind of actions I have ever done. Like if you believe in Islam, what kind of actions do you even think that anyone could possibly do to break it? You believe Islam is unbreakable, right? You are Muslim. You are a da'i. You are the head of da'wah. Islam is unbreakable. So what do you think? Like, what do you mean, like enemy of Islam? And she's fine. Like, do you have the belief that people have got something against Islam that could break it? Then you're a kafir. What kind of a Muslim are you? So I am being accused of being these things, right? And based on what? They are deriving these kind of conclusions from a text. Some of those texts, I don't even recognize them, gathered throughout the past few years. So what is going on? Like, what is the process for you to establish that this person is an apostate, number one, or an enemy of Islam, number two, or a mentally ill, number three? What is your process? What process do you follow? A tweet? So this is crazy. Like, these things are extremely crazy and disgusting. This is beyond. And these are not the things that I have expected, to be really honest and frank. I didn't expect this. I expected that there is going to be a correction from the scholars, and this story would have been closed far, far, far long ago. very long ago, it would have been closed if the right actions would have been taken.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about how this applies to what Muhammad Hijab did, but it's like there are levels of bad. So on the one hand, you could just not be doing something wrong. You could do the right thing. But then let's suppose you convince a woman to marry you, and you say exactly what is going to happen, and then but you're lying about it. You're making that up. You don't intend to follow through on your agreement. You could do something like that and realize that what you're doing is wrong, right? So people can perform actions. This would be anyone. This is Christians, Muslims, anyone. You can do things that you know are wrong and that you know God would not approve of. So this would be the level of you're doing something wrong, but you know that it's bad and you know that God would not approve. Then it would be kind of worse to be doing the bad thing and to think that God approves of it. So I'm doing the bad thing, but God is okay with it. Well, now it's a problem. Now it's an even bigger problem because now you've convinced yourself that it's not even wrong. Even though it's wrong, you're doing the same thing that the wrong person did. You just don't even know that it's wrong. And so you don't have much of an inclination to change. And so, but even worse than that would be doing something that's wrong and convincing yourself that God is okay with it and teaching other people that it's okay to do and teaching them how to do it. Now you've convinced a bunch of people that being bad is being good. Being bad is okay with God, and God gives the thumbs up. And so this is seriously dangerous stuff. If you have influence over other people and you influence them for evil, you're in all kinds of trouble in life. But let's go ahead and check out how Muhammad Hijab. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to add one extra comment. Like, there are so many women out there who are going through these things. Some of them came out and showed themselves out on social media. I'm sure if people are going to search, make researches, they're going to find so many stories, similar stories. So I'm trying to include all these scenarios and be their voice. And I think we did clarify everything in regards to this point. So this was not a misyar marriage. This was meant to be sexual exploitation, and I was supposed to accept it. And people are questioning the degree of my trauma. When he shows up to the hotel wearing a ski mask, and he says, Allah says it's okay to continue like this, after he promised my father and myself a dignifying making of a home. And basically this is what I assumed like Islam teaches. I've never had heard of anything like this ever in my life. And then he claims that Islam approves of it. We're going to keep meeting in hotels wearing masks ever after. No kids, no provision, no home. Let's keep the in-laws out of the picture. And you have to believe me when I tell you that I have good intentions, but I have zero intention of changing this scenario. It's going to continue like this ever after. One of the shuyukh told me in my conversation with him, why did you trust him over a Zoom call? Then later on in our conversation, he said, oh, okay. And what if when he came wearing a mask to the hotel, maybe he could have had good intentions? And I was confused and I was losing my mind. So I'm like, okay, so you are blaming me for making a marriage and trusting him, right? And making marriage over Zoom, right? Although all the credentials and the position you guys are putting him on. Then later on in the conversation, I told him he's showing with a mask. He was like, oh, okay, maybe he has good intentions. Maybe he's going to change. So me as a woman in that scenario, what do I understand from this? Maybe he could change. He's saying he will never change. So what are you telling me when he says, he started defending him? Oh, Muhammad Hijab is religious and he's this and maybe could change it. Like, you should think the best of people. So I told him, are you asking me to continue in that scenario? Is that what you're asking me for? So in the beginning you said you shouldn't trust him. And now that he showed up with a mask to the hotel and he's saying, I will never change this, I should trust him? So how does trust work? Another sheikh he compared Muhammad Hijab with Abu Bakr, the closest companion to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when I brought up the story in front of him, he said, "Oh, you know, when people have done great jobs for Islam, the sake of Islam in the times of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam," he brought up Abu Bakr's story. He said some people complained about him, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Oh, leave my companions alone. They have done great job for Islam." I'm paraphrasing. I'm like, what? No, you are misinterpreting the text. No, the Prophet used to stand against falsehood, right? You are a Muslim, you're a sheikh, this is what you have to say. So there were a few interactions with scholars and the shuyukh I spoke to that created a very big issue for me. And so I thought it is very important for me to share this. And I hope that there are going to be lessons learned from this story.
Aisha,
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to say too, you were asking how can Muhammad Hijab and Ali Dawa and all of these guys focus on, you know, your mental health, quote unquote, you being an apostate, you know, not believing in Islam anymore. Like, why did they focus on all of these things? I'm going to tell you right now, like, one of the components of this narcissistic personality disorder that I would say that Muhammad Hijab has is the fact that in order for him to do these horrible things to you, you can't be a love object of his. He has to divest, you know, from you as a love object. And I would say the reason they're focusing on these things, Muhammad Hijab especially, there's paranoia there, right? When people are paranoid, they're going to basically focus on these little small details about you, and they're going to make it something bigger than what it is. It's basically they're in a state of paranoia. They know that you hold the truth about this situation and you're coming out about it. So that's why they're focusing on all these little tiny details to try and stitch together this bigger story about you that simply isn't true.
Yeah, and just to highlight something, Hijab confessed most of this story and the details that I'm bringing out in public to a lot of scholars. Like, so many of them knew about a lot of details at that early stage when Sheikh Muhammad Tarana was involved, and they were giving me answers about them. He did this maybe because of that. He did this maybe because of that. So I've got some names that I didn't want to mention for one single reason. And it's very traumatizing. It's sad. It's disgusting. It's bad. The reason I didn't want to share these names, because I noticed, sadly, that every name that was brought up came out with an oath by Allah or false testimony against me to distance themselves from the story. Ali and Sheikh Muhammad Tarawna. Although Sheikh Muhammad Tarawna has done great job for me, I thank him. At the early stages, he went around, he collected information. However, he was under a lot of pressure. I feel bad for him. I do really feel bad for him. But I am asking myself the following question. What would have happened to me if Salman wouldn't have recorded those phone calls with the Sheikh? What would have the scenario been? So now we've got Sheikh Muhammad Tarawna under pressure, great pressure, disgusting pressure, came out and gave those statements. And then Ali is coming out. In the beginning, he showed up to me as if he's trying to help. Then later on, under Hijab's pressure or whatever, he's now coming out and standing against me and saying she's a liar and attacking me. And basically, this is why I didn't want to bring out any names. There are so many names that were involved, and I'm still reconsidering mentioning those names.
Yeah, Aisha, you just you mentioned, you know, what would have happened if he hadn't been recording that or this or that. You look at all the ways this could have gone, and all everything that had turned out different. Like, even if you hadn't gotten in touch with Salman, I mean, like a bunch of things could have happened differently, and the outcome would have been not in your favor. I have to say, I don't believe in Islam, but in this whole situation, I believe God is on your side because too many things turned out. You had so much against you, as we now know. We didn't know how much you had against you. We thought, okay, you've got Muhammad Hijab and Ali Dawa against you. That's a lot. That's a lot. These are both, million plus subscriber channels, and that's just on YouTube. But they also have influence in other areas. But just having them against you would be very difficult to overcome. Now we know that there's an entire community of Dawa guys who have channels and so on, who have lots of influence, and they're all conspiring. They're all conspiring against you, and yet they're the ones who are all being exposed right now. And everything that comes out just shows that you are right and you've been telling the truth all along and they've been lying all along. And so, yeah, I think whatever else happens, I believe God is helping you right now. All right, so Aisha mentioned Muhammad Hijab trying to defend all this from an Islamic perspective. Check this out here. Now, this is a long post. Anyone jump in whenever you want to point anything out, or if it's too much, just say at some point that's enough or something like that. But let's go ahead and see Muhammad Hijab in action, because this is a man who wants to defend everything he does, using and use his religion to do this. But Thaddeus, what are we reading here?
Yeah, so this is a tweet by Muhammad Hijab shortly after the story had broke, and he was facing a lot of criticism, even from Muslims, about everything and the statements he'd made in the past. So he posts this, in which he tries to clarify his position on secret marriages or marriages with the intention of divorce, or muta, as Shia would call it, even though as Sunnis are like, oh, we don't do muta. But he's like, all these things are these issues that are floating around, people are attacking for it. He's like, okay, I'm going to clarify my position. And he ends up contradicting some of the things that he said on the public record previously in his attempts to, clarify the situation, which he's not involved in any way, right? Because he's still maintaining that this is all a complete made-up attack on him, and he's pretending that he's not making any statements on it, that he's ignoring it, even though he's releasing videos on an anonymous channel.
All right, so let's see what we've got here. He says, on secret marriages. I guess I could do it in my hijab voice, but marriages with the intention of divorce and muta, juridical clarification. This statement offers a clarification of certain conceptual positions within Islamic legal discourse, especially those that were recently discussed in an episode of The Bitter Truth. Following that appearance, several of my remarks were either misconstrued or reduced to personal opinion. What was presented was not a personal defense or prescriptive argument, but a descriptive account of legal perspectives grounded in the classical tradition. This clarification revisits those points with greater precision and attention to juristic structure. So already sounds like people started using the clips to criticize him and then make fun of his position, and so he has to clarify.
Yeah, just one thing that stood out to me there. He said, this is not a personal, or it wasn't a personal defense when I went on Bitter.
Exactly.
Because we all interpreted it, especially in light of the things coming out, as him finding justifications for his own behavior. But no. He says it wasn't. That's not what he was doing.
He told on himself again.
Yes, I'm saying this for a friend.
Yeah, so he's... so his post here, he's rectifying and correcting, mainly the preachings that he was spreading. And this is one of the conditions that I did put forward to the board and the shuyukh I spoke to, and to himself. Like, you have to come out and rectify and correct on video. And you have to put down the videos that were misleading the youth from an Islamic perspective. So here he's claiming that he was like innocently just talking from like about jurisprudence and so on. No, his words in the past were extremely specific. They were collected. They were all building up an image of like a hit and run situation, like use and abuse situation, like the loopholes. They were crafted, they were carefully selected, and they created a monster, like a weapon to destroy the lives of women. They were very carefully selected, his preachings previously. So now in this post, after I did put a condition and asked the shuyukh, these are the things he has to do in order for me to just stop, because I will not stop if these things are not being corrected. So he did put this post on his X account, which obviously is not what I was asking for. I was asking for him to come out on a video, apologize about his action and the destruction that he caused, and admit his mistakes, and also make the corrections on video and put down all the other videos that are misleading the youth. So this attempt is just to shut me down, just to ask me to stop. But this is not what I was asking for, so basically I didn't.
Interesting. So this wasn't some random post, or wasn't even simply him trying to defend himself, because anyone who watched the clips thought he was talking about himself, and then starts making fun of him. And so this isn't even just him trying to defend himself against criticism. You're saying that this was him trying to keep you quiet by, okay, she wants me to do this and then she'll keep quiet, so let me go ahead and do this. And you're saying, no, this wasn't enough. This wasn't what I asked for.
Yes.
All right, so Hijab says, on so-called secret marriages, the term secret marriage is frequently misapplied. What was discussed in the aforementioned episode was not a marriage conducted in legal secrecy, but one in which the first wife was not notified or consulted. According to the overwhelming majority of jurists across the 4 Sunni schools, such notification is not a legal condition for the validity of a subsequent nikah. This view reflects a long-established interpretive norm within fiqh and should not be read as a marginal or isolated opinion. Islamic jurisprudence, however, does not function exclusively through abstract validation. The classical legal tradition distinguishes between the theoretical derivation of a ruling and its applied manifestation in context. The latter is not an ethical addendum, but an intrinsic part of legal assessment. A practice that meets technical conditions may still be impermissible in application if it leads to disproportionate harm or undermines the objectives of the Sharia. So sounds like he's saying, hey, just because you can defend something doesn't necessarily mean it's the correct course of action, because there are other considerations like harm and so on.
Yeah, so I think what Hijab is saying is that you can't just go by the technicalities. You have to consider the whole situation. You can't just find loopholes, so to speak. You have to consider what the consequences of your actions are. So I guess my question to him would be then, didn't your actions lead to disproportionate harm? So are you saying that you did something wrong? Because if you are, then just come out and admit that. And if you're not saying that, then I don't really understand what your argument is exactly. Because all of your argument was, this is technically allowed on the bitter truth, right? On the bitter truth, you're like, this is technically allowed. You even use terms like, oh, you can give black lies to your wives. So I'm not really sure how this is anyway a quote unquote clarification. If you're now admitting you're wrong, just say you're wrong.
It's just weird, because everything I hear from Hijab when he's talking about rulings on various issues. Everything he says it sounds like he just looks for technicalities and what he can get away with. So for him to be saying, hey, that's not the only factor, you have to be considering the consequences or the harm that you're causing. Yes, Thaddeus is pointing out, think about the harm that he caused here. Is it disproportionate to, whatever he's using it to justify? But also, like, even afterwards, like hijab, you trying to cover things up and you lying to cover these things up. Look at the damage you're doing. You're destroying not just the situation you're in, but you're ruining things for all these other guys who are being exposed now, and in various ways. One is, this whole situation led to Ali Dawa being exposed for whatever he was doing with his secret extra wife. But then you've got all these guys in the Dawa community working together, conspiring to discredit Aisha. Like, all of this is just the result of you trying to cover up what you did. And I mean, I just think about that. If you really believe that you need to pay attention to the consequences of your actions, you might want to check out the consequences of your actions. But let's see here. He says, accordingly, while such marriages may fulfill the criteria of legal form, they may also cause severe social, emotional, and familial damage. It is on this basis, not despite the law, but through it, that many scholars would deem them impermissible in practice. Exceptional cases may arise in which discretion or concealment becomes a protective necessity, such as in situations involving credible threats or legal entrapment, but these remain marginal and must not be extrapolated into general rulings.
I
Again,
think
my
this is
question to
he's
you,
still wrong
Go-
about this point. He's saying that there are some cases where this is going to be allowed. It's okay. If you can just please go back with the slide, trying to go over what he just said in the last paragraph, right? So he said, exceptional cases may arise in which discretion and concealment becomes a protective necessity. This is, he's speaking about his own life, like his own situation, his own personal situation. This is not okay. Based on absolutely no cases, in any cases, no, never, this type of secrecy and this type of discretion and this type of craziness and disgusting actions could possibly be allowed. They shouldn't. Like, he's talking about concealment to the point where the other woman would be treated like a halal prostitute just for the concealment, right? Is like, let's conceal. For the concealment, no kids. For the concealment, no home. For the concealment, no in-laws. For the concealment, shut up. For the concealment, wear masks. For the concealment, we go in separate. We come out separate. Are you crazy? Are you sick? What? He said in some circumstances to avoid legal entrapment. Excuse me. If you've got issues in your life, legal entrapment, and I'm talking in general, I'm talking addressing men in general. If you got issues in your life, fix them. Don't go practice like deception to other women and destroy their. They matter. They are human beings. They've got a soul that you have destroyed. You've got a life that you have destroyed, right? So do not practice these things. There is no exceptions. It says like discretion and concealment and whatnot. Like, if there are women who do agree to these things and they consent to these things, I think that's a whole different topic that we're not talking about here. If she's is a grown adult and she gave permission to whatever kind of craziness, that's her, right? But here, if you are going to involve the deception and the lies and manipulation and the tactics and all these things, and then include these kind of practices later on, this is crazy. And for women who do accept these kinds of things, I personally do not think it's halal. It's impermissible. Marriage was meant to be the making of a family, a home, companionship, right? For the rest of the life of the two. Like in Islam, we've got polygamy. That is something that we're not discussing here. I know you guys that you don't understand that, you don't accept it probably. But like in the concept of polygamy, even in polygamy, there has to be a home care, like a human being who cares of his family, big family, right? In a home, children, everybody knows about everything. So this secrecy details, I had to make a last comment about it, because some people were commenting and saying, you didn't want to let his wife know. In Islam, I wasn't doing something wrong or bad in order for me to go and let her know. Even his previous second wife, she did let her know when things went wrong between her and him, when the relationship probably broke up or whatever the situation was. And then she was like, okay, this is what I'm going to go and do. Like, if there is a polygamous marriage and the man says, please, it's going to be up to me to inform my other wife, that is none of the business of the other wife, the other women in his household. So, like, we understand, because, like, in order for me to go and say, oh, okay, I have to go and disclose this information to his other wife, this is as if I am inside thinking that what's this, the making of this family is wrong, you know. Like, it's disgusting, is wrong, whatever, where it's not, right? So when a husband tell his second wife that it's going to be up to me to inform my first wife, I don't understand why I'm being criticized about that. So he said, do not let her know. The other second wife did let her know, everything broke down. Please leave that to me. That's all what it is. So I think this detail should have been included in this section, because this is a clarification that so many people needed to hear.
And so we have on marriages with the intention of divorce. A similar juridical structure applies to the case of marriages contracted with a concealed intention to divorce. This practice is distinct from mutta, where both parties explicitly stipulate a time limit. Here, only one party privately intends to end the marriage after fulfilling a specific goal. The vast majority of Sunni jurists, including al-Shafi'i, Ibn Qudama, and Ibn Taymiyyah, held that such an intention does not affect the formal validity of the marriage, provided its contractual elements are met. However, jurists such as al-Awza'i viewed this act as impermissible, associating it with deception and likening it, in effect, to mutta. Yes, so I would agree with the latter there. Does sound like deception and similar to mutta. The significance of the Tassel Tenzil distinction again becomes evident even when a contract is valid in form. Its permissibility in application may shift based on the presence of deception, breach of trust, or social harm. In such cases, the internal intention, though technically irrelevant to the validity of the contract, may contribute to its impermissibility in practice. The legal tradition provides a mechanism for evaluating not only actions, but also their consequences and surrounding conditions. Some jurists observed that women, under certain legal formulations, may seek divorce for reasons of personal dissatisfaction. However, such observations do not justify intentional concealment by either spouse. They merely reflect the tradition's recognition that internal motivations exist and must be legally interpreted when they become operative in social reality.
So it seems to be the same thing here. He's saying that, technically speaking, if you go by the letter of the law, you're allowed to marry with intention of divorce. But if you consider all of the circumstances and you consider what this will actually do to women and what this will actually do to the families involved and everything, then in practice, it generally will become impermissible. But again, when he's going on the bitter truth, right, he's basically just saying, nope, this is allowed. Did you guys know that this is allowed? So he is coming out and, in a sense, correcting his previous teachings, although he's pretending that he's just clarifying things. He's not actually admitting that he was intentionally teaching things that are wrong.
On the question of muta, in subsequent critiques, it has been claimed that certain Sunni practices, such as misyar or marriage with the intent to divorce, are functionally indistinguishable from muta, and that the Sunni critique of muta is thereby undermined. This comparison may have some merit when analyzing consequences alone, particularly in cases where such practices are abused. However, this perspective neglects the legal distinction in structure, intent, and textual basis. According to the overwhelming majority of Sunni jurists, muta was explicitly abrogated. Its prohibition is not derived from a consequentialist framework, but from scriptural evidence and juristic methodology. Its legal impermissibility rests on the fact of its abrogation, not solely on its outcomes. That said, the tradition also acknowledges that any form, muta or otherwise, that leads to systematic harm may, through the principle of mafsada, be reassessed at the level of application. The central disagreements between Sunni and Shia traditions lie elsewhere. The divergence concerns core theological principles such as the infallibility of the imams, the nature of religious authority, and the integrity of the Quranic text. While muta remains a significant point of legal divergence, it does not constitute the doctrinal foundation of that divergence. So his conclusion here, Islamic jurisprudence cannot be reduced to a binary of legality and morality. It is a tradition that integrates abstract legal reasoning with contextual application. The tassel of a ruling may yield a particular outcome in theory, but its tanzil, shaped by circumstances, consequences, and ethical concerns, may revise or restrict that ruling in practice. This is not an innovation, but a foundational feature of the legal method. My remarks in bitter truth were an attempt to present this structure briefly and in good faith. They were not endorsements of any specific practice, nor were they personal claims. Wants to stress that these were not personal claims. If those comments were misunderstood, then the fault lies not in the tradition, but in the failure to appreciate its depth and complexity. The aim here is simply to reaffirm the interpretive integrity of that tradition and the necessity of distinguishing between abstract rulings and their applied form.
Yeah, I'm calling cap on this being presented in good faith on Bitter Truth. Every word he's saying is about technicalities on that program. He seemed to be arguing the exact opposite, that if we can find technical reasons why we can do something, then it's permissible for us to do it. I'm glad that he now has adopted the position that Aisha and many other Muslims have, that the law is not just about the letter of the law, but it's about the spirit and intent as well. But that's not what he was arguing on that program. He's being very disingenuous when he's saying that is the case. Basically, he got called out, and now he says, okay, this is very important. That's why I'm not going to make a video about it. That's why I'm not going to put it on my YouTube channel. I'm just going to make a very long tweet. And based on the nature of Twitter, people are almost certainly not going to read it for the most part.
This was basically like word salad. So many words for saying like, I did something and I'm doing damage control now. I'm making a poor attempt at damage control.
Yeah, and this is why that post doesn't serve the purpose. That was not the purpose. The purpose was to retract the damage, the great damage that you have, and destruction that you have created in the land, basically. And therefore, it should have been broadcasted, and all the false other teachings should have been retracted and pulled off the internet. And you should have come out with an apology to the women who have been abused based on those teachings.
All right, now let's go ahead and compare what Hijab said there with some clips from The Bitter Truth.
On the brother's side, lots of men are married to women who do not wear hijab, right? Yeah. And then later on down the line, it's like, put your hijab on. Okay? So the sister's like, hold on, you wasn't like this in the beginning. So why all of a sudden, there are cases like this?
So what can he do?
No, they have to.
If he's tolerating it, he can say, look, I'll give you 6 months. There's only two things I can see happening.
But we're talking about reasons for the marriage breaking down, right? Yeah. So I'm saying that could potentially be a reason. of a man leaving a woman and saying, look, you're being disobedient, you're not practicing the way I want you to. But I'm saying in the beginning, right, you compromised on that thing. So
what? I mean, I don't understand the issue here. So he wants this now. She's not doing it.
But it leads to divorce, ultimately. Exactly.
But what I'm saying is...
that's a cause.
I get dopamine, but what I'm saying to you is, for me, divorce is not as bad as her not putting hijab on anyway.
What's going on here?
So what we've got here, sorry, I'm just going to make a quick comment about this. So what we've got here is he's changing his position that he put in the bitter truth previously, which was like, you have to keep your word, you have to respect your word. If you agree on something and you sign on something, you have a contract on something, you have to follow it as a man. But here he's going like, he can do whatever he feels like doing. Listen, divorce has to be so he's creating an environment like it's a natural reflex after his actions. He's trying to create an environment that shows that divorce is okay, regardless of the amount of damage it could possibly create on the women. Marriage has to be an easy affair. Divorce has to be an easy affair. He can come, he can go, he can divorce, he can agree, he can disagree, he can promise, he can break his promise. He can do whatever he wants, as long as he's not committing adultery and he's not watching pornography.
And even in this short clip right here, it sounded like the issue was, suppose a man marries a woman and he tells her it's fine if she doesn't want to wear the hijab, but then after they get married, he says, "No, now I want you to wear the hijab." And so they're asking him about that, and he's like, "Well, if that's what he wants, that's what he wants, and the alternative is divorce." Mm-hmm. And so that sounds similar. That sounds similar to what he did with you, although it doesn't sound like he changed his mind. It sounds like this was his plan all along. But after you get married, then it's okay. Now here's how it's going to be, and the only alternative is divorce. But he's the one who put you in that entire position to begin with, and was intending to do so in order to kind of keep you in that position. So, yeah, it sounds like he's defending the idea.
Yeah, absolutely. This was the plan based on what I have experienced, because he had a back and forth previous to the nikah that I couldn't understand. He was putting himself forward on the phone because we had phone calls, but at the same time putting forward his friends. That confused me. And he was first, and then there was the first proposal where he spoke to my father, and then he retracted, and he didn't give much explanations. So all those actions, and he told me, "I'm trying to do what is best for you." And I was confused. If you are a good man from an Islamic perspective, and it's polygamy from an Islamic perspective, so why is abuse even brought up on the table if you are a Muslim and you are going to keep your word? And you're going to take very good care of your family, your big family. So therefore, there are things that were in hiding from the get-go that have created that situation of going back and forth and hesitance in getting the marriage done. And so these things were in his head, and it was orchestrated, it was pre-planned. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the lady there in blue there asked, a man and a woman, they get married, they have an agreement. It happens to be around hijab, but in principle, it could be anything. And then the man says decides something else. How is this right? And hijab's response is, "So what?" He changed his mind.
Yeah.
He can, and if she doesn't like that, she can get a divorce. Those are the options, right? So they had an agreement. In this case, it was around hijab, and man changes his mind. Oh, well, you got two options. You can do what he says, or you can get a divorce, which makes your contract or your terms or your agreement before the marriage basically meaningless, because the man has unlimited authority to change it in whatever way he wants at any time, according to hijab.
All right, and now we have another clip from The Bitter Truth, Muhammad Hijab on changing marriage terms.
Or let's say, for example, you're not married, but you're addicted to pornography. You're not lowering your gaze. You're not doing nothing that Islam is saying. You're distracted. You're actually still in pain from your proof, whatever it may be, right? Which of the two situations is better? For me, even if, I'm not going to say like these scholars who say marriage with the intention of divorce, they actually mention with the intention of divorce, right? I'm not going to say go into any marriage. I agree with you. I mean, with anyone, right? Do not go into any marriage with the intention of divorce. But what if you go into a marriage and say the following, with the following intention? I'm going to go into this marriage and we're going to test the waters. I don't know if I'm going to be with this woman for the rest of my life or not. How about that? I mean, because that intention for me is better than going into like effectively pornography addiction or zina, which are the two big ailments of the time.
So yeah, the two clips actually got out of order. This one is on marriage with the intention of divorce. The one we just watched was on changing terms. But what Hijab is saying is, well, you got some options, right? You got some options in the modern world. You could like actually fall in love with a woman and commit your life to her. But, that's probably not going to happen. So if that's not the case, then you got two options. You can look at pornography, you can commit adultery, or, you can just enter into a marriage and say, it may work, it may not. We might get divorced after a week. Basically saying that marriage is just the exact same thing as a pornography addiction or adultery. But we signed a legal contract and that's much better now, is the idea here. So he says, if you marry someone with the intent to divorce it, just like I married someone who I knew had the intent to divorce over a Zoom call or a WhatsApp call, that's fine. That's still better. That's still better than having the same sexual relationship outside of marriage. So it's all good. It might not be ideal, but it's okay because it's better than the alternative. That's what he's saying.
And he's talking about testing the waters. He's talking about testing the waters and, hey, maybe I'm not even intending to marrying and then intending to divorce, but maybe I'm understanding that I'll marry her, and if she's everything, that I tell her to be, then maybe I'll stick with her. And if I start telling her what to do and she doesn't listen, then, well, I tested the waters, and now it's divorce. Anyway, what were we saying, Aisha?
Yeah, so I was saying, notice here that from Hijab's perspective, from his speeches, he only cares about men. I don't know if anyone is capable of noticing this. Like, who cares? Like, he's literally as if he's saying, who cares? Like, he doesn't see the woman at all. Like, whether you just want to try her, whether you just want to use her and later ditch her, whether you like who cares? Like, who are you? Where are your kids? Where is your life? Where is your youth? We've already stigmatized you. And so regardless of what happens to you, you are like, you're damaged, like you're unworthy of nothing. So whatever we do of you does not matter. So even if I'm going to marry you and divorce you, regardless of what my intentions are, regardless of how I view marriage, regardless of whatever I do of you, it does not matter. As soon as I'm going to divorce, you can go to hell. Go kill yourself. Like he said in his text messages on WhatsApp. We don't care if you kill yourself. Go kill yourself. You are divorced twice. We've stigmatized you in the community as divorcees have no value. Now you can go and deal with your trauma, deal with your mental health, and we're going to follow you with our fingertips to criticize you about your trauma, about your mental health that we have caused you to go through. Any action you go ahead and do, you're going to be criticized. And like, that's all what it. He only speaks on behalf of men. He only sees men, and women are nothing. They are non-existent in these speeches. So like, in terms of what I have gone through personally, it was like, either you're going to agree to these terms or it's divorce. And I went for the divorce straight away. He told me, this is a divorce that was initiated by you. This is what he told me. He told me the divorce was initiated by you. It's not initiated by me. So if you want me to take you back, just agree to my terms. Like, imagine, like, so I had this conversation with him. You know, I had this, you can still come back if you agree to what I want from you, which is just to be a halal prostitute,
Wow.
you know.
He's
So,
established a
yeah,
clear.
basically,
Sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, no, so there are so many women are going through these things. And like, so these are this is the influence that the youth are getting.
He's established a clear pattern here 3 times, I would argue. His first wife, he married her, had an entire family with her, from what I understand. And then he decided to take a second wife and discarded her. And also, by taking a second wife and, you know, not informing his first wife, you're showing your first wife is just a tool. She's a tool to get whatever you want out of her. You know, you're getting the family, you're getting probably some structure there. And then he gets the second wife, discards her. Then he gets you and discards you. Like, women, he's developed a pattern of showing that he uses women as tools. Something to use, get what he wants, discard.
Yeah, and again, the serious issue, the issue that makes it more serious is that he has massive influence over other people, especially young Muslims. And, you know, it's similar to the situation with Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate was influencing a lot of young men and giving them some very bad ideas about how to treat women. And Sister Aisha's right. He seems to, everything he's saying is just, it's not just for him, it's how men can get away with treating women. And there never seems to be the slightest concern about the well-being or the good of the women. Creepy stuff. But let's go ahead.
Just wanted to add one extra point really quick. Like what you said here, what you're pointing at here is even worse than Andrew Tate, by the way. This is what made me talk, because Andrew Tate is not graduate from Al Azhar. Andrew Tate doesn't have like PhDs or whatever master degrees in Islamic studies and whatnot. David would Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate does not, like, he doesn't have people, scholars from the Middle East sit at his feet while he's giving a speech. Andrew Tate is not a Muslim clergy. He's not advertised as a da'i, as the head of the da'wah. So Muhammad Hijab's actions and his influence is even worse, is way much more dangerous.
And that's why he's being exposed right now. Thaddeus, we have the issue of secrecy coming up with, looks like some back and forth. Mm-hmm. We have the Ali Dawa and Muhammad Hijab view, and then Knowledge North responding. So we ready to go through these?
Yep. Let's do it.
See what we got here.
These women here are actually characterizing an institution with the most negative superlatives, most negative adjectives, with most horrible of context.
Hijab then has the audacity to cite this ayah as if he is championing the justice between wives it prescribes. He is not. He is advocating secret sex marriages, which he knows will end in broken hearts and broken homes the moment the side wife demands her fair and God-given equal rights.
Sorry to say this, but it does seem to be an inqiyad issue, a submission issue, an Islam issue. It's an issue of submission and iman.
Yes.
If you truly believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you believe in his rulings, I'm sorry to say, and you have full faith in that, and you did what Allah said when he said, "Udkhulu fi silmi kaffa," come into Islam altogether.
Okay, good.
You cannot describe the situation of living in a marriage which potentially you'd be getting all your rights as a first wife in such traumatic fashion.
Yes.
So where does a woman or a man have to submit to lying and deceit in the name of religion?
Allah stipulated that if the man wants to go and do that, he does it in the right way by honoring her, speaking to her father, doing the marriage, giving her mahr, announcing the marriage, not hidden. Honoring her, speaking to her father, announcing the marriage, not hidden.
Oopsie.
Yeah, so this whole clip is from Knowledge North video. Obviously, he's clipped something from a conversation of Ali Dawa and Muhammad Hijab, and they're discussing a clip that was on a show of a bunch of Muslim women talking about issues. I forget exactly. It's something like Tea Time or something like that is the name of it. But basically, they discuss sensitive issues. And Hijab took offense to this. He took offense to the way they talked in that program. And so he felt he needed to do a video calling them out on what they were saying in that, and comes on here, calls them out, and Knowledge North is like, this is a pattern, right? That he's doing things far, far worse. They may have said a few things in poor taste, or used some inappropriate language or something along those lines, but they weren't wrong about anything Islamically. And then he's coming on here and saying that these women are on the verge of apostatizing from Islam because they said a few words he doesn't like. And then Ali Dawa's like, you got to do things in the right way, and contradicting the actual actions of Muhammad Hijab.
Yeah, and then he blurts out, "Yeah, not hidden, not hidden." Oopsie. It's funny because if I had to put one word after Ali Dawa said that, I would have put oopsie, and that's what Knowledge North did. All right, so Knowledge North is going to continue with this issue of secrecy and has a different view from Muhammad Hijab.
The whole point of having witnesses is for public accountability, to protect the couple from being suspected of sexual impropriety. This is why in the Maliki madhab, while the two just witnesses are recommended, their presence is not a strict condition, provided the marriage is publicized in the community, just as the companions would spread news of a marriage in compliance with the Prophet ﷺ's order to
announce the marriage. Alinu an-nikah.
But when the witnesses are sworn to secrecy, then the misyar wife assumes the role of a mistress in an extramarital affair.
Any comments?
So what I was saying is, this is something that was brought up. We had this conversation, and I told him, we're going to get slandered. So what would the people think of Muslims? Is this what Muslims do? They go to hotels wearing masks? What is this? He said, you should, so his reaction built up an extra reason for me to come out from the marriage. And he was like, you shouldn't worry. And so I realized, you don't worry if your wife gets slandered in the community. She's going around in hotels. And you don't mind if you get slandered. Okay, if this is really, you have good intentions, this is really relationship, although it's clearly not. So how are you going to break this down to your children when they grow up after a few years, they become teenagers, and they find out that their parents are going to hotels? My child and his children. So these are things that are extremely problematic, and there were a lot of men that were following on his footsteps.
Yeah.
Sister
you put that
Aisha,
very well there. Go ahead.
Sister Aisha, I have a question about the whole secrecy behind all of this. So did Muhammad Hijab say anything to you, not to tell people you got married? Don't tell your friends or anybody in the community? Did he say anything to you about deleting text messages? Did he try to kind of convince you to maintain this level of secrecy that he wanted, on your end?
So the whole situation was that because I am his neighbor, as soon as I move out from my property, we're going to have our home. Children, the neighbors know that we are married because he's coming home, obviously. And this is the only format, according to me, the only format of a marriage in Islam. There is you can't keep going around like animals to hotels. It doesn't work like that. You are here to make a family. You have kids. You're bringing the grocery. Whether it's 2 women, 3, 4, polygamy, okay. We believe in it. Okay, if you are Muslims, but in what way? In which way? In this way, I reject you, and I reject your version of Islam. So now in regards to the secrecy, it was only in regards to his other wife. try that it wouldn't come from you, please. Leave me to break this news to her. So if it is to go and tell your friends and your friends, we are in the like in the masjid or the mosque or whatever, just don't spread the news. Don't go to the mosque and go like, oh, I was like, why would I need to do that? If we're gonna have our home, this is marriage. Like, this is not a game. We're not teenagers. If you're gonna speak to my family, you're gonna have a home, you have children, and you are providing for the family, and wherever you would like to live, if you want to take your time to break the news down to your other wives, it's fine. Like, it's okay. You can do that on your own times. But this type of secrecy where he's going around wearing masks, and it's something that he never brought up to me. He never got my agreement on this, ever. I never agreed that we are going to be hiding like astaghfirullah al-azim. Disgusting. It's extremely disgusting that you go around and you have the audacity to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed you to do these things. It's permissible in Islam. I am going to be here to fight you against this.
All right, let's check out Ibn Taymiyyah, what he has to say.
As for a secret marriage, it is akin to the marriage of prostitutes.
Sabian institute, prostitute.
Allah the Exalted said, "Chaste women, not those who commit fornication or take them as lovers." So secret marriage is akin to the practice of those who have secret lovers.
So I guess hijab, the idea here is hijab has Ibn Taymiyyah going against him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very important figure in Islam there. So very good source by knowledge and art citing this. That's not just his opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He said it was his opinion that it was taking a secret wife was like taking a mistress. But then you got Ibn Taymiyyah saying the same thing and actually going further and saying that she's just a prostitute if that's the way you're going to treat her. And I would agree, practically speaking, that is indeed what you're doing in that scenario, right? Not the scenario Aisha agreed to, but the scenario that Muhammad Hijab wanted, where it would remain complete secret for all time.
Mm-hmm. All right, now we have Knowledge North again.
Swearing the witnesses and the wali to secrecy is the only sure way to keep the marriage hidden from the public indefinitely, and that would be haram. Unsurprisingly, those most vulnerable to such secret marriages are reverts, because revert sisters ordinarily won't have a Muslim father as their natural guardian, or believing brothers and uncles and such close Muslim male relatives who could represent and protect them and fight their corner for them against abusive, oppressive and manipulative husbands or one-hit wonder walis, handpicked by the groom.
And just wanted to point out that we have heard Muhammad Hijab explaining in his words how revert women take it best, and Knowledge North gave why that might be.
Thoughts of the evils that result from secret marriages are too many and often tragic.
There was a revert sister with a child who was in a secret marriage long term, and she actually passed away, and so did her child, in a car crash. Yeah. And the husband refused to take responsibility for the funeral, despite this sister having a family who would not have gave her a janazah under the Sharia. He refused to take responsibility for the funeral of his wife or his son because he didn't want his first wife and his first wife's family to find out.
Whoa! So that was on the consequences of secret marriages. So sounded like she was saying there was a woman, she converted to Islam, got married, then she's in a car crash, but since it was a secret marriage, her husband didn't want to take responsibility for it, and her family wasn't going to give her. Her family was non-Muslim, so they weren't giving her an Islamic burial, and so by him not saying he's married to her, she didn't have an Islamic burial because he was.
Yeah, which is kind of a big deal, right? Kind of a big deal that the bodies won't be properly buried. But he doesn't care, right? What he cares about is keeping it a secret from his first wife. So they had a long-term relationship. I don't know what that means exactly, but it wasn't, a one-night stand situation. They had a long-term relationship where he kept the marriage secret long-term, and then they got in a car crash. His second wife and the child they had together got in a car crash. They both died. And he's like, well, my first wife can't find out about that secret marriage. So she's just out of luck. Her family's not going to provide her a proper Islamic burial. Oh, well, she doesn't get a proper Islamic burial.
Don't care as long as it doesn't affect me. And who does that sound like?
That's pretty pathetic and sad that these secret marriages, even like in an example like that, even in death, it's like, what do you do with her body? Well, I'm not going to take care of it. And whatever her family does, they do. They bury her however they want, or cremate her even, which isn't allowed in Islam. It's just, she's just trash. Go on. Goodbye. They don't care.
That's pretty wild. That's pretty wild stuff. All right. Any other comments on this before we go into a clip of Muhammad Hijab? Go ahead,
Yeah,
Aisha.
I was just going to say that this is why the scholars have to correct these things. I'm just asking, please come out, explain to us. You understand? Explain to me, answer me, explain to me, clarify to me. Yani, if I'm horrible, call me to Islam. I am still Muslim. Like, I'm learning. I'm going crazy. Come out, help me. Explain these things, these consequences, these implications, these wrongdoings, these corruption in the land. Explain to me, explain to us, all of us. I mean, the Muslim community. Explain to us as Muslims, as women. Come out and explain to us. Because we can here clearly see the implications of these actions at so many levels. And there are millions of other stories. And this is their job. Their job is to clarify the real version of Islam.
And if they don't, then we're just going to be stuck with the ideas of Dawah guys like Daniel and Muhammad Hijab. Let's see what they've got to say.
Now, what you have to see, what is your artillery? If you're trying to control the situation, you have ila, you have talaq, you have hajar, min al-madja', you have maw'idha, you have polygamy, which can be done, it's not as a punishment or anything, but just it can be done.
You don't have those things in your artillery. That's why I'm
you can
trying
give
to
a talaq.
say. The legal system has made all of these options illegal. Like, they're actually illegal,
Well,
or
if
they
you,
can
have,
be
if
used
you
against
decide I'm
you.
not going to have sex with my wife, they're going to come and arrest you, for example.
No, she'll accuse you of abuse as well, and when she divorces you, she'll get all your property. She'll get custody of the kids.
Then American Muslims shouldn't get married by the British law. The American law.
It doesn't matter.
Everyone catch what he just said right there? So this is the idea. If you get married according to the American law, in other words, it's done legally. The marriage is done legally in the United States of America. Then when you get a divorce, then she's going to be able to seek legal recourse against you. And Hijab there is saying, then don't do it. Don't do it through the legal system. Interesting. Let's let him continue here.
If you're doing, even if you just do your nikah, it's still you're still legally obligated to these things. You're still accountable to the There's no distinction.
How would you prove that you've done nikah?
Everyone catch this. I don't want to keep interrupting, but I want people to catch what he's saying here. So Daniel Hakikachu brings up, well, even if you just do a marriage in the mosque, she'll be able to show that you guys were married. And Hijab saying, well, how's she going to prove it? So what's this mean? Because he already has it in his mind that I'm the guy who's going to handpick the witnesses who are my friends who will lie for me. And so how is she going to prove anything to anyone? What are we going to, she's going to walk into court and she's going to say, hey, we're married. And the judge is going to say, okay, where's the marriage certificate and all this? Oh, I don't have any of that stuff. Okay, where are the witnesses? No, they all agree with him. He's saying, how are you going to prove it? So he's actually, I mean, keep in mind, this would have been a man who married a woman, then they divorced, then she tries to prove that they're married, And this is Muhammad Hijab from a couple years ago saying, if you're willing to lie, how is she going to prove anything? It's so weird that the Dawa guys, much like Andrew Tate said he was doing all these things for years. And then once people actually accuse him of doing it and he finds out it's illegal, then it's, no, I never did that stuff. And here you have Hijab talking about all this stuff that's going on. And then all this stuff that he's been defending for years, as soon as it's pointed out, hey, that's what you're doing. You're lying about your marriage, just like you taught was okay to do, lie about being married. Now you're doing it. I would never do that. No, she must be the one who's lying. I haven't seen her defend lying. I've seen you defend lying. Pretty much almost every video clip I've ever seen of you is you defending lying for something.
And the whole conversation here is about, so Hijab says, like, you got tools, you can manipulate women, right? That's the whole context of the conversation, is you got all these tools you can use against your wives who, want to be treated as decent human beings or whatever. And Daniel's like, well, the problem is here in America, you don't have those tools because the legal system has set up protections for women. And then Hijab is like, okay, well, here's how you get around the legal system, right? Mm-hmm. So they're conspiring on how to get around American laws set up for the protection of women. And yet somehow this is, Islamically good, right? The whole thing is they're complaining about how the laws are against Islam.
Mm-hmm. And this is
too.
Oh, go ahead.
Too, this is, we're talking about, this secret short-term marriage type of thing. But what about these secret marriages that are maintained for years? There's secret children, there's a secret life, everything like that. And if there's no legal marriage, that's also another way to strip women of their rights and to, basically screw them over by just having this type of arrangement.
Yeah. And, my goodness, it's just amazing to me that sitting here defending all this stuff and then he actually does it. And then his followers don't believe, for the followers who are still on his side, who think that he didn't do this, we have video of him saying that's exactly what someone should do. So it is an interesting situation where he does seem to view Islam. This is his view of Islam. Islam is one big set of tools on how I can abuse women. And then he's horrified to think that, in some places, women will actually have tools to avoid being treated like this. And so how do you remove that from the women so that we're the only ones who emerge victorious in these situations, mm-hmm. and everyone else, we can do whatever we want to them and there's nothing they can do about it. And we want to keep women there. So do not acknowledge any of this that we're actually doing. This is wild stuff, but let's let him continue here.
How would you prove that you're married?
Nikah, yeah.
No, all she has to go to court and say, yeah, he married me in the masjid, or he married me according to Islamic law. And that'll actually count against you because the judge will say that, he's using religion to manipulate her.
We'll do nikah.
I wish it were that easy, but unfortunately,
I don't know. I think that I don't know if it's every state is as gloom as you're making it out.
Most states actually have common law marriage, and according to common law marriage, just the fact that you have been living together, regardless of their nikah or marriage, you count as a married couple, and you can be divorced, and you can.
Okay, in that case, then the brothers should put their assets and their things in other people's names. They should put.
Oh my God.
Now you're getting this. So guys,
I think. Wait, sorry. Let me just add this point here. I think what he should have said there, because he told them if they have been living together, then they are counted as married couples, and according to what I have experienced, that's exactly what he was trying to avoid.
Yeah. So, I mean, just. One, it's him trying to make it so that the woman can never prove that she's been married, and on the chance that she can prove that somehow, even when he's lying, if she somehow proves it, hey, make sure your stuff is in other people's names so that there's a lot of secrecy for this guy. Everything is secret and deception and lying and covering things up and
Sister Aisha, I have another question. I think maybe it was one of Salman's videos or somewhere else. Maybe it was in Thaddeus's video about with you. Did you pay for the hotels for you and Mohammed Hijab? And was that like an attempt to not have anything traceable on his credit card or anything like that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So we are talking here about a stage in the relationship where everything, according to me, was going to move to the right direction, right? So I wasn't thinking through a lot. He asks me to do something. It's the early stages of the marriage. I do them. So now, later on, after everything happened, I realized that he was trying to avoid to be traced, even financially. So what he did, he asked me to make the payment and sent the money through the witnesses.
So all of that. So in other words, to meet at a hotel and pay for the hotel, he would have the money sent to you through other parties. We call that avoiding a paper trail, so that there's no paper records of what someone is doing. So it's basically, at the time, you didn't spot any, you weren't thinking, oh, he's got some scam going on or he's planning something. But later on, when you look back at it, it's like, oh, that's what he was doing. He was trying to avoid leaving any records.
Yes.
Interesting fellow here. Got a few more seconds of this. Let's see.
In that case, the brothers need to be savvy with the. There's obviously a way out. I'm not a tax expert or a inheritance expert or something like that. Or trust other people. There's no doubt. But you have to have a couple of guys that in your life that you trust them, that you give them a part of your company, this and that, so you can avoid this nonsense. Because in Islam, and Muslim women need to understand, this is completely haram to take 50% of a man's earnings. You have no right to take this money. It's a theft. You are stealing his. You are a leech. How dare you take his money? So there's no reason for you to take his money like that. But to be fair, like, alhamdulillah, I actually married my wife by the law. Yeah, I trust her, alhamdulillah, she's all good. But I've also got things in place.
She can't trust
and so
you.
These are the kinds of
Oh, did everyone catch that? But I've also got things in place, which means I also have other women that I'm married to. And then he smiles and they all start laughing. Let me play that little part again.
I've also got things in place. And so these are the kinds of these are the kind of things that we all have to do.
Everyone got that? All right,
Champion of Dawah here.
Yeah, so that's Mohammed Hijab and Daniel Hakikachu on how to trick people about whether you've been married, and even if she can prove it, how to avoid paying her afterwards in a divorce settlement. All right, so what we have left are some clips from Knowledge North, who does not approve of this.
Related to the issue of divorce is that of the in-laws.
Most of the marriages break because of the in-laws. Let's just not add more in-laws in the picture.
Allegedly. That's what Hijab said. Allegedly. But whether or not one accepts the lady's testimony, it's hardly a stretch to suspect that the man who is a fan of a no-strings nikah will want to cut out his in-laws. Furthermore, it's more than reasonable to further suspect them of having married with the intention of divorce, because by remaining aloof from the members of a couple's respective houses, they won't be called upon to make peace and reconcile between warring spouses. Even if, according to the strict letter of the law, you have the right to opt out of speaking to your in-laws, that's the opposite of virtue.
So I guess these are among the tools in Mohammed Hijab's tool belt for how to convince your secret wife that it needs to be kept secret. We don't want to, or how to avoid dealing with in-laws. In-laws are going to make things more difficult, or what advice he would give to Muslim men. Hey, if you want to avoid some stuff with in-laws, then keep things secret. Any thoughts on this before we go?
Well, in the context of the previous discussion with Daniel, it becomes even more apparent, right? So the reason that I put this in here is because of him wanting to avoid talking to Aisha's in-laws. But in context of the previous clip, I'm just now realizing that this is also to avoid any proof, right? That this isn't him not wanting to do something. This is a way to avoid any evidence, because if there are in-laws who know about it. They could testify in court, right? They could say, yeah, they were married. We know about this. So if you keep everyone out of it, you don't let anyone know about it other than the woman, obviously, and a couple of your buddies that you convinced to lie for you, then you're good. No one will ever know. You can't be proven in court. You can't be held responsible.
Yeah, so sounds like there's the real reason you want to avoid the in-laws, which is you don't want them to be able to testify as witnesses that you were in fact married. So that's the real reason, but you need to explain to your wife why you don't want to talk to her in-laws, and you don't want to say, well, it's because I don't want any witnesses. So you say, oh, but in-laws make things so complicated and so on. So why don't we just go ahead and, stay away from that whole issue?
The fact that he is on video talking about, oh, you need a few good friends, this and that, and then there's this group of 75 dais, and then it just pieces together like an even fuller picture of who's the liar here and who's the one telling the truth here. Mohammed Hijab is basically talking about himself and his own life scenarios and what he did to get away with this stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And that carries through. Again, almost every clip I see from Mohammed Hijab for the past couple of years is him defending lying. And the ways he's defending lying are exactly the ways that he was lying in life. And then when he's exposed for all the lies he's been telling, he actually expects people to believe him. He's like, hey, here's all the situations where I think it's fine to lie. And I think I'm okay with God if I lie in these situations. Then he lies in all those situations. And when he's called out for it, he expects us to believe him. It's really, really like you wonder, like, how dumb could his followers actually be if they still believe him at this point?
The other crazy thing is that in the newest Salman video in the group chat, Mohammed Hijab, is saying, I'm going to post this video and everybody come flood the comments. So even in the comments, you think, oh my God, there's all these Muslims that agree with him. But actually, it might be just countless, sock puppet accounts of Hijab's cronies in there.
Mm-hmm. Wild stuff. All right. Now we have Knowledge North on Misyar marriage.
Misyar is a kind of marriage light that appears to fall between the halal and the haram.
لا أعتقد أن هذا جائز شرعا لأنه يتنافى مع قوله تعالى الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وتبقى القوامة للوالد على البنت وفي ذلك قلب للشرع.
So Albani ruled Misyar to be invalid because it invalidates the role of the husband. If Allah has designated the man to be qawwam, maintainer and protector of the women of his household, he cannot abdicate from his role, even if his wife does not mind forfeiting her right to provision and maintenance.
Wild, wild stuff. Wild stuff, but that is definitely a superior view to Mohammed Hijab.
Yeah, so the point of this isn't to say necessarily that, Misyar is not part of Islam or part of Sunni Islam or anything like that, but just to show that there is legitimate disagreement, right? Albani is not exactly a lightweight here, right? He's a very important figure in recent Islamic history. And in his opinion, this isn't a valid part of Sunni practice at all, right? Misyar is not a valid practice at all. And of course, what Hijab actually did isn't even Misyar. It's just prostitution, or not even really prostitution, right? In prostitution, there's at least an agreement from the woman. But here it's like,
yeah,
just
it seems
sexual
worse.
abuse.
It seems worse than mutta
Yeah, it's
to
worse
me.
than prostitution. Yeah,
With mutta, you're actually, you and the woman would be agreeing this is what's going to happen. We are agreeing that we are going to be married for 3 hours or a day or something like that. Whereas here, you're pretending that you are intending to have a normal marriage, but you're actually doing the same. You're actually doing the same thing that you would do in a mutta marriage, but it's one-sided. She didn't consent to this, but you are planning it. So yeah, I think it's worse.
Yeah, I mean, what hijab actually did is more or less sexual abuse, or you could say rape, right? It's kind of like a date rape scenario, to use a Western term here, where you pressured a woman into something under false pretenses. She, technically speaking, might have consented, but she didn't really consent because everything was false from the beginning. And under U.S. law, you could be prosecuted for that, right? You can go to jail for rape charges for the kind of thing that Muhammad Hijab did in this particular circumstance.
Weird.
I would argue
yes,
that as
absolutely.
well. Yeah. You know what?
Yeah, I think even in his own, sorry, just
It's okay.
even if in his own words previously, he described that as sexual exploitation in one of his videos. I don't know if we have that video on the list. And that implies great trauma to the woman basically he's getting married to.
And there was no explicit consent to this specific scenario with a specific goal in mind for Muhammad Hijab, and you just wanted to hook up and that's it. No, that's not what you wanted from the beginning. It's not what you wanted when you did the nikah. It's not what you wanted when you went to those hotels. None of this was actually consent from you. You didn't consent to this type of situation at all.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that this is why I chose him. It was a choice I made because I assumed he is better to be trusted for better circumstances because he's more trusted. I trusted him more than all the other proposals I had. So if this arrangement is what I was looking for, I wouldn't have left monogamy to the side and then gone to marriage through something like this, into something like this. This is crazy. There is no one who takes such decision in their lives, especially mothers. This is something I had never agreed to. It was never brought up to my attention ever until he married me. And basically, as I said before, I assumed he is more religious and more to be trusted. I know you guys, Christians, and you are critics of Islam. You don't agree to that, obviously, because he treats you in a certain way and whatever the reasons are. But from an Islamic perspective in the Muslim community, based on the things that he used to advocate for previous to this marriage, I based my decisions.
All right, now we have one more clip from Knowledge North on misyar marriage.
Other scholars are more lenient.
إذا تمت الشروط وأعلنوا لا بأس ما نعلم في شيء أسقطت حقها يأتيها نهارا دون الليل وأسقطت حقها لا بأس حق ولها مثل ما أسقطت سودة حقها.
These differences between the ulama, some ruling misyar haram, others halal, can be reconciled to an extent because there is no dispute between the scholars that, were the husband to prove unable or unwilling to maintain or fulfill his marital responsibilities, then the marriage would be in jeopardy and the woman would be justified in initiating divorce and suing for alimony. Nor is there any disagreement between the scholars that the parties cannot stipulate in the marriage contract the waiving of either side's God-given rights, as all such conditions designed to circumvent the Sharia are null and void. The scholars' functional difference in their ruling on misyar really stems from how they approach the timing. For Bin Baz, at the point where the woman who had previously waived some of her rights decides she now wants them, but the husband refuses to man up, at that point the misyar marriage fails. Whereas Albani works backwards from the point where the man is unable or unwilling to grant the wife all her rights. For Albani, The very fact that the man thinks he has a choice to maintain or to not maintain his wife, he has reneged on his fundamental role as a husband, and therefore the marriage fails before it even begins.
So it looks like Knowledge North is
So
on. Oh, good.
I'm going to give some clarification to this point. So what he's trying to say here is there are two different opinions about this matter of misyar. So some scholars say it's haram, it's impermissible for the husband to refuse to treat all his women equally, polygamy to say. It's haram for him to refuse to do that in case the woman who he married to, who has previously forsaken some of her rights, decides to ask for them. So when she does, it's haram for him to tell her, no, I won't give it to you. I won't give you your rights, and I'm not going to, it's not going to be equally, I'm not going to be treating you all the same equal way. It's haram for him to say this, and if he continues in that marriage, then that marriage is invalid. It's haram. Okay. So the other opinion says it's haram from the get-go if he is incapable of fulfilling those requirements in the future, in case she asks for those rights later on. So if he knows from the get-go that he's incapable of being fair to his women in polygamy, he doesn't have the right to go for misyar. But again, as we said in the beginning, what Muhammad Hijab was looking for has nothing to do with misyar.
All right, so we've been through a lot of information about this scandal with Muhammad Hijab. He's been saying things for years, and we've all been wondering, well, how much of this is he actually implementing behind the scenes? And turns out he was doing a lot of what he's been defending, and so was defending himself along the way. And at the end of the day, seems like that's pretty much all he cares about in life is defending himself against people criticizing him for the horrible things that he's done. All right, Houda, you've been through all of this stuff and you've been following the story and you guys have been doing shows, but why don't you share any final thoughts on this whole issue before we close out?
So my biggest takeaway from all of this is that there is a lot of dirty, slimy things happening in the underbelly of the Dawa world, the Dawa bros. And what I want to see is accountability on behalf of other Muslims. I want Muslims, all the famous Muslims out there, anybody who follows Muhammad Hijab, anybody who's out there taking pictures with Muhammad Hijab, high-fiving him, speaking with him at conferences, however you're encountering him and engaging with him, I want you to call him out. I want to see a change in behavior from the overall community that this has got to stop, where women are being used and thrown away like garbage and everybody's silent. We can't have another Imam Nick. We can't continue this where people are silenced and shunned and the behavior continues. And there's this protection, this culture of protecting abusers and the bad people. They need to be called out and it's time to take out the trash.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thaddeus, you've also, it's weird because I feel like I've done so many shows going through this, but there are all these people who know way more than I do about the whole situation. But what are your takeaways on all this?
Yeah, so on what we viewed today, first of all, we saw a statement from Muhammad Hijab kind of contradicting what he's been teaching the last several years. For the last several years, I don't know, maybe, 10 years ago he wasn't teaching this. I don't know, maybe when he started as a public speaker in Islam, he had a much more moderate position. But in the last several years, he's been teaching you should just go by the technicality of the law. And by the way, there are multiple jurists' opinions that conflict with one another. So if you can just find anyone that supports you, you're good to go with that. You can use the law as a tool to do whatever you want. In fact, I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to find ways to get around the Islamic law and get around the national law of wherever you live as well, if you don't live in an Islamic country, to get what you want, right? Find a way to use women for your benefit, because we got this horrible scourge of pornography and adultery, and the only possible solution is not for men to behave better or men to take accountability, but is to find ways for men to use women in a halal way instead of using women in a haram way, and it all comes down to technicality. So his statement that the law is more complicated, it's about harm, not about the letter of the law, but the intent and so on and so forth, is great, except that's not what he's been teaching the last several years. And he put that on Twitter as a super long post in a culture where people will only read a sentence or two, because he doesn't really want to go on record correcting himself. He doesn't really want to distance himself from his views, because the views he's been espousing for the last several years are his actual views. And those views lead to the abuse of women. And then you have the broader situation here, right? So you have Muhammad Hijab acting out on his own practices and abusing Aisha. But then you have the broader situation that many other people are taking his advice. They're looking at him, they're seeing him as some kind of hero and saying, oh yeah, if he can do it, or if he's advising us to do it, of course, that's great, that's good. This is the mercy of Allah that we're allowed to do this as men in Islam, so let's do it. And no one is speaking out against it, even after hijab has been exposed, tons and tons of evidence. There is zero doubt in any rational person's mind that hijab is guilty of all this. And his guys not only are not speaking out, I before a week ago, I thought they were just afraid, not speaking out, but it turns out they're actually conspiring to help him cover this up behind closed doors. And the whole situation is just absolutely horrific.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty bad. So you've got a bad guy doing bad things, and then you've got a community of his loyal followers who are willing to help him get away with all of it. Not good stuff. Sister Aisha, why don't you share whatever you want to share with everyone?
Right, so I would like to highlight first, before I move on to my feelings, which obviously I'm sure many from hijab sides don't care about. I would like to highlight first the following points. What we have gone through was not just these differences of opinions or this explanation of the text and scriptures from the part of Muhammad Hijab, and the deception and the sexual abuse and all of that. What we have gone through was the slander that has followed, because he spread stories about me to those who knew about the marriage, and he worked really, really hard and disgusting ways to distort my image. Then later on to distort the image of Sheikh Muhammad Tarawna, and from his own words, Sheikh Muhammad Tarawna, those other ones who were part of the nikah. So he distorted their image as well. He blackmailed them too. So we're talking here about blackmail, defamation. We're talking about fabrication, impersonation. We're talking here about the use of gangs, which is extracted from his own video that he published on false allegations. And my question to him is as follows. How many gangs did you use for your missions against me? What were you spreading about me to them? What kind of missions did you send them to? How many texts and documents have you fabricated to convince those people who knew about the marriage and get them to be on your side? How many women had to go through these things? How many women had to sign NDA forms, no disclosure applications, in order for them to stay silent and not come out public to speak against this abuse that could have happened to them from other guys in the field? How many people had to go through all these horrible things? My statement is we have to keep in mind all the horrible things and crimes that have been committed, and there are so many, including like his accusations to me that I am an enemy of Islam, that I am an apostate, that I am mentally ill. My identity has been revealed to thousands of people in the community from the personal information that was shared online. There's my family, my friends. So I am not anonymous. I am not unknown. I am known to thousands of people. And all these things that I have gone through have harmed me significantly. In the name of all the women who have suffered all these things, I am saying these women are going to have to deal probably for so many years or for the rest of their lives with the implications of these crimes, the trauma, the incapability of trusting men and getting married next and moving on and creating their own families. They're going to be traumatized spiritually. Probably they will leave Islam, and still yet they are going to be attacked for that. My thoughts go to the kids of the single mothers that have gone through all these things, including my daughter, to their parents, probably elderly parents, who had to look at their daughters go through this suffering, and their grandchildren. I am calling for change.
Yeah. And I'll go ahead and share my thoughts on this whole situation. And I'm just speaking directly to Muhammad Hijab. We know Hijab. We know you're listening because you're a narcissist, so we know you're watching all this eventually. So let me go ahead and break down my problem, Hijab. It's not because we've had our disagreements in the past or because we've argued in the past or something. This particular situation, let me break it down for you. So this is the book of Genesis here, chapter 1. This is the opening chapter of the Bible, Hijab. The first chapter of the Bible says, "Then God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. And God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." Check out that middle verse, Hijab. It says, so God created man in his own image. That's the generic sense of man, in like the sense of humanity. And we know because it says, in the image of God he created him, male and female he created them. So you have God creates human beings, and male and female he created them. He created male and female in his image. And what does that mean? Well, in the ancient world, kings, rulers, emperors, and so on, they would put images of themselves in various parts of the kingdom to remind people of their dominion and authority and so on. And so in the Bible, images are forbidden. But God says that, why? Because he said he made his own image. God made his own image, human beings. And what that means is that we're supposed to be reminding people, we're supposed to be reminding each other of God. It's what we're supposed to be doing. And in other words, like just as an image of the ruler in the ancient world was supposed to remind you of the ruler, we're supposed to be reminding each other of God. And that can happen in various ways, but it's supposed to be for the good of each other. That when you're looking at someone who's sort of reflecting the will and nature of God and so on in various ways, that's what's supposed to be going on. And what happens is God also gives us all sorts of abilities that are associated with this. So for us to be the image of God, we have to have some amazing abilities. But what happens when we get these amazing abilities? Well, we use them for horrible things. We use them to do horrible things. Like just think of all the different abilities, Hijab, that God gave you that you are using to abuse women and then to cover up what you've done, right? That takes a lot of ability. You failed, but God gave you the ability to do certain things, and you use those abilities to do bad things. Well, guess what? All of us do that. Some more so than others. But all of us use our God-given abilities to do bad things. And so we fall into sin. And so what we actually look like is something like this. So this is a plane crash, but it's like, this is what we look around and see. This is what we look around and see. A bunch of human beings who have damaged themselves and been damaged by others, and were damaged by sin, and were damaged by the abuse we carry out, and so on. And so we look around and see these kinds of things. And that's not exactly reminding you of God. That's not exactly reflecting God. But what would happen is, suppose you'd never seen an airplane before and you just see this. Like if you had no idea what an airplane was and you just saw this, a crashed, wrecked plane, you could kind of look at that and tell it's made for something important. It's made for something really amazing and awesome. And so that's what we kind of look around and see at the world. We see human beings who are flawed and who do horrible things, and we can treat each other horribly, but we can kind of look at ourselves and say, you know what? It looks like we're meant for something amazing. It looks like we're meant for great things. And so what you do is you look to some, if you're looking around and you see everyone and we're all damaged to one extent or another, what you'd want to do is see like a perfectly functioning example. And that's what we have with Jesus, according to Christianity. But I would say even according to Islam. According to Islam, Satan touched every child who was born into the world, but couldn't touch Jesus. And so Jesus is called blameless in the Quran, but Jesus is the perfectly functioning example of someone who is the image of God. And so we're supposed to look to Jesus and basically live up to what we were meant for, right? And you can't do that on your own. You need the Spirit of God, but that's the idea. It's we are made to be the image of God. We're made in the image of God. We use the abilities we're given for ourselves, for selfish purposes, and so on. But we have the ability to sort of look and see what we're meant to do and to become more and more like that. And so what I see from you, Hijab, is your goal is to keep people like this, right? Is to keep people, right? That people aren't looking to you. I'm talking about your followers and anyone else. People aren't looking to you and seeing, here's what it's like. They're not looking to you and saying, wow, here's what it's like. Here's what I need to live up to. This is the example of you, and you're convincing everyone else to be more like this, to be more destroyed. And it just seems like you cause destruction all around you. And so that's really what ticks me off in all of this, Muhammad Hijab. This is why, especially in the Bible, leaders are held to such a high standard. You have influence over other people. If you are massively defective and you're using your abilities to abuse other people, that's bad. That's one thing. But if you're a leader and you're showing other people that that's how to treat their fellow human beings, you are in serious danger with the Almighty, my friend. And so when I look around and I see you, it's not just Aisha and not just any other women you're abusing. Again, it's your own followers and so on. When you have people who trust you and you use it to make yourself the center of the universe, making yourself an idol to people, to lead them away from God, you're in serious danger, buddy. And you need to get right. You need to get that right. And so this is kind of one big intervention, Muhammad Hijab. You can look at everything that's happening with Knowledge North and Salman and Aisha and us here. It's one big intervention. It should be your closest companions, but they're all brainwashed. But think of it as an intervention from people who've seen the things you've done and are calling on you to change your ways. You need to look at the damage you're doing to your own community, to your own family, to your wife, your current wife, and however many other wives you have, and then, of course, to your ex-wives. You need to look at the consequences of your actions. Quit being so insanely selfish. Be a man for once in your life. Stand up, acknowledge what you've done, decide to change, stop treating people this way. And I would suggest seriously rethinking your views if this is what your views have led you to. All right, I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us and watching these two discussions with Sister Aisha, and going through all these clips and seeing some of these issues. Whatever else happens, everyone on this end of the discussion, we all agree. Don't treat people the way Muhammad Hijab treats people. Don't be like that. And if you do treat people like that, you need to be exposed. And you being exposed isn't just for the good of other people, it's for your good too, because you don't want to spend the entire life treating people that way and damaging people. So thanks to Thaddeus and Abdullah and Houda, and especially Sister Aisha for joining together. I'd like to thank everyone for all the work they put into this, Salman and so on. And everyone be sure to share this information, because you do still have people trying to cover things up and blame everyone except the one who really needs to be blamed in all of this. So don't let them get away with this anymore. And for the good of all of our brothers and sisters in humanity, let's put an end to this nonsense.
Thank you for your collaboration and for allowing this to happen, and giving me a platform to advocate for the version of Islam I believe is the correct one.
Yep, and thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you all next time. And any updates in the future, we'll keep you all updated.